Thank you for that. So our next session, as I mentioned earlier, is entitled The Big Debate. How do I grow my business and keep it profitable? Outthinking the competitor. And our speaker this afternoon is Lindiwe Sangweni Siddo, and she has been in the hospitality industry since 1987, when she studied at the renowned hospital school. I'm going to try and pronounce this. Ecolelis. Close? Excuse me. Okay. She studied in Switzerland. How's that? Upon completion of her diploma in hotel management, she furthered her studies at Penn State University and obtained a BSc in hotel, restaurant, and institutional management, and graduated in 1993. Her career began with work at the Hyatt Hotels, Grand Hyatt, Washington, D.C., and she's also worked... James, I feel I'm doing an introduction, James. Shh. These CEOs. She has worked in very well-known brands such as Park Hyatt, Department of Environmental Affairs and Tourism, Southern Sun Hotels, and in fact this led her to develop and operate the first Holiday Inn in Soweto in 2007, which she later renamed the Soweto Hotel and Conference Center. Lindiwe has been a shareholder and managing director of the Birchwood Hotel and OR Tambo Conference Center from 2011 to 2015. More recently, she has joined the City Lodge Hotel Group as operations director. She remains a director and shareholder of the Soweto Hotel and Conference Center, and she's also a board member of the advisory board of the Global Philanthropy Alliance and the chairperson of the... Yeah, it's an educational trust. It's one of those names. You're gonna Schaunberg, something like that. Schaunberg. In her spare time, Lindiwe likes to study in exotic universities that have got weird, interesting names. But she also enjoys spending time with her husband, Salifo. See, even the husband's name. She had to meet a guy with a really interesting name. And of course, her family. Please welcome Lindiwe.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And I've got the hardest job here, the graveyard shift. You're all thinking about the Venetian ball and what you're going to wear, and if you have to iron it, and if you've got time for a nap before the ball. Please stay awake with me. I'll try and keep it interesting and light. And thank you very much for having me. It's an honor. I don't think anything that I'm going to say is rocket science, to be very honest, but sometimes it's good to gather our thoughts and come back to a space where we have time to just be calm in a group, with a group of individuals who do similar things, and just sort of be a sounding board to one another. So sometimes when we recognize in these presentations aspects of our business or things that we're doing or things we could be doing better, or maybe you might even at the end, if I leave 5 minutes, have some suggestions to build on this. I was asked to speak on how to grow your business and how to keep it profitable. I focused a lot on the actual aspect of growing the business, because I think if you focus on growing your business, it goes without saying that you will be profitable. And what I did, you've heard sort of the background that I've had, and I'm not going to regurgitate it, but I thought it'd be interesting to start with a very interesting case study, which is the Soweto Hotel and Conference Center. Makes it relevant for me. It's a bit more lively if I talk about something that is in existence as opposed to a theoretical textbook explanation. So you heard about my background. I'm obviously a hotelier and a person who's passionate about the hospitality industry. I've been it for a long time, for all my sins, and I still love it. One of the greatest experiences in my life was actually the inception and the development of the Soweto Hotel and Conference Center. So in 2005, I left formal employment. I was with the Intercontinental Sandton Towers at the time, and I decided that I just really wanted to test my itchy feet and test this thing called entrepreneurship. I've always been somewhat of an entrepreneur. You know, during university days at Penn State, while I was studying, I worked in the sort of nearby hotel. I sold makeup during the weekends, Mary Kay makeup. I did all sorts of little things, I think, because I might have a little bit of a curiosity for entrepreneurship. So this opportunity came in the Sowetan. and it was advertising for operators or developers to come forward and to develop and operate a hotel in Kliptown, Soweto. Kliptown is a National Heritage Site. It's where the Freedom Charter of our country was signed some 60-some years ago, June 26th in 1955. So that immediately meant that this was going to have some sort of prominence because it was a National Heritage Site. It listed what was needed, black female, credentials in terms of hotel operational skills, money, marketing muscle, etc. So I kind of got some sort of Dutch courage from I don't know where, and decided that together with some friends and partners, we would go forth and put our presentation together. And lo and behold, we were successful, amongst many other big names. I guess at the time, being 2005, it was exciting for a black female to come forward and say, I do actually have skills. I may never have developed a hotel, but I do have the operational background. The key to that project at the time was very much around, so how are you going to fill the hotel? What is the concept? What's the business plan? Of course, these were the questions that were being asked by the banks that I was going to. I must have knocked on every single development bank and every single commercial bank in town. Eventually, I landed in the IDC's presence, who got very interested, a project in the tourism industry, and more so in the townships. It was a first. 4-star hotel, 48 rooms, two presidential suites. Everything about it was just very exciting. But the key that I think unlocked it was when I dug into some of the relationships that I had and decided to go back to revisit the Intercontinental Hotel Group that I had been part of when I was at the Intercontinental Sandton Towers, to say, could I become a franchisee of the Holiday Inn brand? Intercontinental Hotel Group found this very interesting, and so in October 2007, we opened the doors of the first Holiday Inn in Soweto. It was quite a milestone, first everything, first black, female, first, whatever. And that was very exciting. The prospects were fabulous. This hotel was going to be pumping with the muscle of Holiday Inn behind it. But then reality set in, the reality of when you start your business. And I've learned this lesson even in the biggest of brands with our opening of the Park Hyatt in 1995. It too went through its growing pains before it was able to gain the momentum that every business owner wishes that they could achieve day one. A lot of what was in the business plans, in the financial planning, in the marketing and sales and marketing projections didn't come to fruition. And very soon, one found themselves knocking on the door of Industrial Development Corporation, IDC, to say, I think I'm going to need some working capital. I mean, this was about month 6. Into the second year, I started panicking. How am I going to pay this franchisee fee, marketing fees to Holiday Inn? And one of the things I've learned in business is you should come clean quickly with your partners, come clean quickly with your banks, so that they stay present and they stay as your partners. Obviously, they have their own vested interests, but I think an open and transparent relationship has always worked for me in business. So I began making the right sounds at the right time to the banks, to IDC in particular, as well as to the Holiday Inn Group, to say, I don't think this is going to work. I'm not able to see the numbers that we had spoken about or that I had reflected on my projections, and I might even need to drop the actual Holiday Inn brand, even though it did give me the initial sort of door opener. So what was evident was that the location was actually a very different type of location to where Holiday Inn normally was. It was in a National Heritage Site, as I had said. It was in a very difficult, and still is, difficult area of Soweto, Kliptown. But if you have the vision and the insight in terms of what you'd like to do, you obviously stay in. So then came the journey of what do you do to try and make this business survive? Time and time again, I had to revisit the business plan. I had to do what I had been seeing all my life in the formal working environment, where we would have annual strategy sessions, which just fascinated me and were great fun, and you knew that you'd get some time off work and go into a boardroom or into a conference center in another venue and do what is called the annual strategic review. Suddenly it became so relevant to me. It became far much more meaningful. Was the original plan the right plan? Yes, I checked that. We were still in a very exciting venue. The whole concept of a 4-star hotel in a township sounded right. The business was picking up slowly, but not fast enough. And therefore, it was necessary to have a look at what needed to change. And that's where your original market research and a reflection on what everybody probably knows in this room, of what we would refer to, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, exercise had to take place. We had to take an internal look with my team. Obviously, key members of the team had to be in place. So people who were in the sales and marketing environment, obviously, but also the operators, because the sales and marketing team can't sell if the operators aren't delivering what it is they're selling. And together, we would come up with new ideas, especially because we, as a team, were at the coalface. What was also very important, I began to understand, was the understanding of the sort of outside survey, the market research of what is usually referred to as a pest. What was happening politically? What was going on economically? What social and technological aspects did we need to take into consideration in order for us to consider our next steps forward? This was probably 2009. We'd been open for 2 years. We no longer had the Holiday Inn brand. But now, it was time to start really reflecting on opportunities that were coming. And one of the biggest things that was imminent at the doorstep of the entire hospitality industry was the World Cup. You said, I'm glad you're still awake. So the World Cup was imminent, as you all said. And this was an opportunity that many of us in the hospitality and tourism industry looked at as the key to unlock the door. I would pause, though, to say, sadly, there were some situations where entrepreneurs and some people started business for the World Cup and not beyond the World Cup. And those were important lessons that we would have all wanted to learn, even for ourselves, as we observed some of these colleagues. In the case of the Soweto Hotel, I kept noticing turn-away business for conferences. We had these beautiful 48, and still have, beautiful 48 rooms, of which 2 are presidential suites, 4-star graded. I'm sure Daryl will be curious now to come and check. But in essence, what was happening is we would get client requests for conferencing with accommodation, boardrooms with accommodation. And all we had were the 48 rooms. We had conferencing facilities in the vicinity, but that wasn't good enough. With the World Cup imminent, I went back to the IDC, who were now partners in the business, and I said, I think if we put 2 boardrooms, there's space on the roof, we can convert that into 2 boardrooms, a 12-seater and an 8-seater. I put the business case together, and this was very convincing, especially because of my demonstration to the bank of all the turn-away business and the opportunity costs that we had incurred as a result of not having these boardrooms or conferencing space. So this was a great opportunity to go and look for funding. And I use this particular example that when you want to go back to the banks for capitalization into your business, be it for growth or to diversify or to extend, there should be a good reason behind it and an ability to demonstrate that return on further investment. And I was fast learning this. Remember, my background was very operational. It was my first time coming into business, but I was learning how to do the backstroke, which I had never done before. I just knew doggy paddle. So, World Cup came and went. It was a wonderful time. I framed all the occupancy reports and average room rate reports of that period because we felt good. We could see the business. Obviously, it was a result of the big demand for the football matches that were taking place at F&B. But pre, during, and post gave us also a very unique opportunity to market and to have promotional opportunities. My friends who are in this room from Gauteng Tourism Authority, South African Tourism, Joburg Tourism, all came to the party in terms of promoting Soweto as the place to come during the World Cup. And of course, myself and many other small businesses benefited from that particular marketing platform that was created. It became a promotional tool that actually much later, beyond the World Cup, was going to come back to serve us well in terms of people knowing about the existence of the hotel. Mind you, we're always still trying to market. I'm using these and citing instances of what happened. So World Cup came and went. Now it was post-2010. Remember that the rest of the world was going into a global recession, you remember? We were lucky, we had our World Cup, so it kind of softened the blow. There were a few casualties, as we will know, post-World Cup, and now I had to survive. So the boardrooms were working, but not quite lifting us to those levels of occupancy that we still required to break even and make sure that the business was running into a profitable state on a consistent basis. Because one of the points that I'll stress later on is inconsistency in profit is a sign that you're not ready to grow until you have been able to stabilize and make sure that those profits are consistent. I started thinking of partnerships and alliances. And I started wondering of who were out there as big groups and that one could start talking about. And these discussions were taking place amongst partners with myself and the IDC. And really the motto I was following was, 10% of a billion. I know I exaggerate when I say a billion. It's better than 100% of zero. So that was when I started opening discussions with other businesses and similar opportunities. And one of the biggest things that happened in 2011 was I was approached by the Birchwood owners. I don't know if you all know the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center in Ekurhuleni. If you're from Bloemfontein, it's in Ekurhuleni, or if you're from Cape Town. And 665 rooms, huge conference venues. On the busiest day, we've seen 7,000 to 8,000 delegates. Delegates, attendees? What did Peter say? I'm a bit confused now. Coming through the actual conference center. So that was an opportunity in a lifetime. They came to approach me to ask me to come and be MD of their hotel. And we came up with a very, what can I say, a creative solution to make both businesses, Birchwood and the Soweto Hotel, benefit. I had long discussions with my husband, Salifu, and his advice was, babes, don't look a gift horse in the eye. So I went back and I accepted the opportunity for us to partner. And the partnership was basically a share swap of businesses. Obviously relevant and relative to the sizes, 48 rooms versus 665. 15-year-old business versus a much younger business. In all of that, opportunities came from this partnership. One of the most significant ones, which many of us don't think about when we're running our business, was it's awfully lonely to be on your own in business. You don't have that executive committee that you're used to in bigger corporate businesses. Or you don't have that board that is there all the time. They come for quarterly meetings, they give you the advice that you need. But suddenly I was back in the midst of individuals who had vested interests in both business, and sharing of ideas and the merging of our business grew the ideas and made us far much more creative. And the first thing that my business partners did was to walk upstairs to the mezzanine level of the hotel to find these big plush offices. And they said, whose offices are these? I said, mine and reservations and sales and marketing. And they said, do you get any revenue on sitting up here? No. So quickly I understood where the conversation was going. And in no time we had converted all the office space into a 50-seater conference center. That turned the model upside down on its head. Immediately we had a bit of a bigger venue than the 2 boardrooms upstairs. We now had a conference center, which could now attract a new type of business client who was looking for small to medium meetings for strategic opportunities, be it a corporate or even government. Mind you, I forget to mention that across from the hotel is what we call the Walter Sisulu Square of Dedication Convention Center. It's a huge multi-purpose hall. I call it a convention center, they call it a multi-purpose hall. but it seats up to 1,000 people. During Nelson Mandela's annual, what do we call it, the Mandela speech, where he gives the lecture, the Mandela lecture, I think it was in 2006, it set 1,800 delegates. That's the size of that venue. So we were often also now, because we were moving into the conferencing space, getting requests for 400, 500, 600, even 1,000. And we never said no to any of that business. We struck alliances and partnerships with the Walter Sisulu Square Management, which is actually a city-owned facility, owned by the city of Joburg. And very soon we were able to take care of anything from as little as 2 people meeting, to 8 people, to 50 people, to 400, to even 1,000. And what was working was that the size of the kitchen and the economies of scale were coming to fruition for us. And these were all turning points. So I use this particular example of my personal experience to demonstrate how alliances and partnerships can work for you to grow your business. There are obviously other examples that I've put on the screen. It was interesting as I landed, just because I was coming here, I was far much more focused and conscious about the topic I was going to be talking about. And so I was in a flight of I guess I can mention it, I won't be in trouble for mentioning brands, will I? A flying Blue Crane. And as we landed, they talked about the car rental as well as the hotel partnerships that they have. Those are the alliances that businesses come into to put packages and to bring mutual growth to each other. We've heard of hotel group mergers. I think the one that I cite of Soweto Hotel and Birchwood was on a small scale. I was sitting near one of the sales executives of Protea, Arabella, and we are all aware in the industry of the merger of Marriott and Protea. And no doubt there is an opportunity for growth in both those brands by merging. By merging, we know that they'll be able to retain some particular skills. We know that they will be able to grow into particular markets that they may not have already been in on both sides. Marriott needed its foot in the door in the continent, and Protea obviously was looking at growth beyond. Retail mergers. Thank you. I'm being shown that I thought I was talking really fast. Of course, diversification. I think I've mentioned in the previous slide the diversification of the Soweto Hotel that started as accommodation, moved into boardrooms and conferencing, and from small to medium to large. That would be a perfect example. Diversification in your own businesses could also be looking at yourself as an expert. Often we don't recognize after many years how much knowledge we carry in our heads. How much expertise and skills we have. And sometimes we're so focused on this business that we're trying to get off the tarmac that we could certainly diversify. And some of those examples would be consulting for the rest of the industry, training skills, development, and so on. So that would be something that you would want to consider. Targeting other markets. So making sure that you're not always focused on the same market. I learned the same lesson. Initially with the Holiday Inn brand, we were so focused on the corporate market because Holiday Inn brand emphasized that. I soon learned that there was a greater emphasis on government, both, all the different tiers from national to provincial to state-owned entities and so on, municipal. But also that a nice balance that when one entity or when one market segment is drying up, you're able to be diverse. Church groups, military, and so on. Peter Schwartz spoke of generations, and I think he said enough of it. So my mention here of looking at the generations that you can market to, it's important to be aware of what the generations after, in my case, as a big baby boomer, would be for the markets that will grow with you. Your generation X, Y, and your millennials are going to grow with the business. They're eventually going to become mature and want to use your facility, but they'll also guide us into what needs to be done from an innovation point of view. The presence on the internet, I think we've had a lot of mention of that this morning and this afternoon, but Bill Gates said it at the end of 2002, and that was a long time ago. He said there'll be 2 kinds of businesses. the those with internet presence and those with no business at all. His point was, if we were not moving fast with the technological aspects of the internet and what it brings, we would soon be left behind. I'm still frozen in time. I still carry my handwritten notes and look at the computer. But really, we need to all be understanding what social media will do for us. Are we optimizing the internet to the best of our ability? Most people today plan their travel, conferencing, accommodation on the internet. Bookings.com, Expedia, TripAdvisor, you name it. And it goes on and on. And we need to be very much aware of what we need to do to make sure that our businesses are positioned likewise. Expansion. I'm in a group, the City Lodge Hotel Group. It's been announced, so I'm not giving away the crown jewels, that we are expanding. Hans Enderle, who started this business 31 years ago, started with the recognition that there was a gap in the market. And that gap was a requirement for budget, select service business. And he introduced road lodges. And after road lodges followed town lodges. So from 1-star, 2-star, 3-star to the courtyard, 5-star. And that was making sure that this company would grow by capturing several market groups. But in doing this, we've now reached a point, and with 55 hotels in the country, are now poised for expansion onto the African continent. It's common knowledge, and it's on the internet and all the news, that we will now be beyond Cameroon, be in other countries such as Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, where we already are. I mentioned consistency, being able to be recognized by your clients, stick to the plan, be fair when you put your pricing together, have no ambiguity, don't panic, don't be all over the place if you feel that your business is failing. Loyalty programs. I'll talk about the loyalty program of this great case study. Because I'm running out of time, I won't go into great detail, but I read a book by a man called Ian Furr. How many of you know sorbet? You probably have wives, or you also go there, because they have sorbet for men. It's not wrong to put your hand up. But one of sorbet for women, for men, for teens. But the point of this book, when I read it, it's called Get That Feeling. It was about a story, and all his business tricks are in there. But what to do when you want to grow your business. He started in 2004, I believe, or 2007, with 4 outlets. And slowly he put together the expertise of how to fill a gap of economic, fast way of beauty care for women. So not the spa where you go and listen to, the la-di-da music and pay lots of bucks, but the fast answer to super women, the fast answer to the yummy mummy, the fast answer to the techie savvy, that's what he calls them. So he's looking after all these different generations. And in doing this, was able to move from 4, and today they boast 150 outlets. They've even now they've gone global. They're now in the UK. And the point of this is this was now using franchising to grow your business. So a business that was originally very small, was he perfected it, he created expertise, he created a model, standards, procedures, marketing, and in it he also included the loyalty program. Chicks like me go there just because they call me a VIP. I love it. So, those loyalty programs work. You get clicks, if you have a clicks card, you're able to get that swiped, and it works hand in hand together with the sorbet card. And it's things like that that retain the business. Very customer-centric, Ian Furr. Never forgets that at the core of it all, doesn't even call his customers customers, he calls them guests. It actually is that guest that will be your revenue generator, that will be the reason you grow your business, that will be the reason that you become profitable. And with that, can I say, I thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, we can take one question. If you have one question. There's one question.
Sorry, I'm wearing my lousy glasses today, so I can't see very well.
The lady with the yellow. Did you raise your hand?
No.
Oh.
Better take off Saturday.
Anyway, at the heart of it all is just being not to be scared to be a risk taker. Also, trust a lot of your gut. Some of these things are not in books. Sometimes you just have to... Yes, there's a question at the back.
Oh, you're out of the session. You're sitting behind the line. Okay. Use the mic. Use the mic. We're telecasting.
Okay. Thank you. In terms of the use of the office, sorry, but I know us as blacks, we need those nice big offices. Isn't it a good thing as well in terms of bringing new clients and just love the first impression?
Yeah.
And I understand and I like the thing that you've actually turned into a very big conference room, but isn't it also a good thing to have a big office? Thank you.
So when I was made general manager of the flagship of Southern Sun, the Intercontinental Sandton Towers, I thought I had reached the pinnacle. I was like, this is what I've been dreaming of all my life. And I was walked in and I was told by my operations director, let me show you your office. I nearly bumped into the wall. That was my office. It was a small little office. You know, in the hospitality industry, we want managers outside. We want them on the floor. We want them mixing and mingling. There's not a lot of meetings that take place in the office. We actually use our facilities to have meetings. We meet in the boardroom of the business because we are showcasing it. We meet in the restaurant over a lovely meal, breakfast, and we're showcasing our business. So that becomes your office. It's bigger than the office you're imagining. I don't want to disillusion you though. The general manager of the Soweto Hotel has a lovely office. It's right downstairs. She can see everyone because it's literally like a fishbowl in the middle of the office. So there was a solution.
All right. Thank you very much, Lindiwe. Another round of applause. Kamumu wangu wanza kuti atichine nenyaya yemaofisi ka sokuti kana yakadaroka ainengeri uruka saka